Blender key.
Alright, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can make a very basic flooded hallway scene like this. Now I'm going to keep it very basic and just show you how to set it up. I'm going to leave all the texturing and good lighting to you because I want to assume that you know how to do the basic stuff in Blender. And I did render this out, so let me go ahead and show you what this looks like rendered out. Now keep in mind that I did this with the built-in fluid domain system that's built into Blender, and in my opinion that system kind of sucks. This is about as good as you're going to get unless you know something that I don't know about this built-in fluid system. Now I know there are a few things you can do to tweak it to make it look a little bit better, but it still doesn't look all that great. I would suggest to anyone who can afford it and doesn't mind spending $76 to buy the Flip Fluid add-on, because Flip Fluids looks so much better. But if you know how to use this system, then Flip Fluids will be extremely easy to learn. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and open up or reload the startup file. And I'm going to turn on screencast keys so you can see what I'm doing. Alright, now I'm going to go into top side view by pressing 7 on the keypad, and then press 5 to go into two-dimensional or orthographic view. I'm going to start off with a cube. If you already have a cube, keep it there because that's what we're going to start with. Add mesh and cube. Alright, now I'm going to scale this cube on the Z axis down to 0.25. S for scale, Z 0.25, enter, and it basically just made it pancake. Now I'm going to scale it on, or I'm going to make it on the X axis. I'm going to resize it to 32, and then on the Y axis I'm going to change it to 16. Alright, now we have the basic floor size. Now with that selected, well, before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and name this hallway. Alright, now with this hallway selected, I'm going to press tab to go into edit mode, and now we need to create some loop cuts, and these loop cuts will define the areas that we are going to extrude in order to create the walls. Now I'm going to create the hallway is going to start like right here and then come here and then go down this way. The water is going to start up here and then run down this way. Alright, so we need to create the basic layout of the walls. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so we can get a better look at it. And over here on the left, I'm going to use these tools. I'm going to use the loop cut and slide tool. So I'm going to left click on it and then come over here, and if you notice, if I stick the mouse pointer near the edges, a purple line shows up. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and go right here and then left click and then drag this or move the mouse over so that the loop cut is right there, and then left click again to release, and this will be our back wall. Now let's do that again. Loop cut, left click, and then this right here will be the other side of that hallway. We'll move it to about, let's say about right there. and then do it again, loop cut, left click, and then the other side of the wall. Because see, you got the outside here, you got the inside, inside, and then outside. Alright, now let's do it in the other direction also. Well, we still need one more right here. Loop cut, left click, drag it to here, because this will be the back of the wall that we never see behind the camera. Alright, loop cut, come over to one of these edges, you see the line pop up, left click, and bring it up to here, because now we just created the back side of this wall or this hallway portion. Loop cut, left click, and bring it down to about there. Loop cut, left click, and how many spaces did I make this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That way both hallways are just as wide as each other. And then one more loop cut. Loop cut, left click, and excuse me, and then left click to release. Alright, now what we want to do, because the only thing we did was create cuts in it, we need to actually extrude the walls upward. So go down here, click on face select, and then select every wall that makes up the walls, or every part that would make up the walls, like right here, right here. It's just the basic wall layout. Now I'm right clicking and then shift right clicking to select the next one. Basically right now I'm just holding down the shift button and then right clicking on the new faces. Alright, I think I got all of them selected. That's what we want. And then what we want to do at this point is just press E, the letter E for extrude, and then 7.25, enter. So now you have the basic hallway layout. Alright, of course the walls are kind of thick, but this is just for an example. I'll leave the artistry to people who know what they're doing. Alright, now press tab to exit edit mode, and over here we see something called scale. Ideally, when we're dealing with physics type simulations, we want all of these to be 1. So with these being 16:8 or any number other than 1, we know the scale has not been applied. So in order to apply the scale, hold down the control button and press A, and then this menu comes up and click on scale. And the only thing it does is just basically re-zero out, or I don't know how to explain it, but anyway, you need to do this. Otherwise it may do funny things when it comes to physics simulations. Now what we need to do is come over here to the physics tab. If for some reason your physics tab isn't showing because it's like that, you can either turn your scroll wheel to scroll that out, or you can just drag it out here. Alright, but click on, with the hallway selected, click on the physics tab, and then ideally you'd have flip fluids, but since most people don't have flip fluids, we're just going to use the internal fluid system. Click on fluid, and then right here, fluid type, change that to obstacle, and then change it from volume to shell. And that's pretty much it. That's all you have to do with that. Alright, now we need to create a mesh that's going to represent the initial amount of water, the volume of water. So what we're going to do, we're going to add mesh and then a cube. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to press 1 to go in the front side view, and I'm going to press Z to go into wireframe, and I'm just going to press G to grab and then just move it over here into this back hallway section and then zoom in. Now I'm going to scale this on the x-axis to fill up almost this entire space from here to here. S, X, and that's about right. It's close enough, doesn't have to be perfect. And then do the same thing on the z-axis. S for scale, Z, and then scale it up to about there. Now press 7 to go on top side view, and then just kind of center it up in this back portion of the hallway. Now press S for scale and then Y for the y-axis, and then just bring it about that size. Doesn't have to be exact, and just bring it back like that, and just make sure that it's not actually touching the walls or the floor. Alright, now once again over here the scale doesn't all say 1, so we need to apply the scale. Control A, click scale. Alright, now we need to create the actual domain itself, and in this case it's probably easier if we go in the top side view, zoom out just a little bit so we can see the whole thing, and then press or come down here and add another cube. Well, before we add another cube, let's go ahead and name this. Let's go ahead and name this fluid. Alright, now let's go ahead and add a cube. Add mesh and then cube. Now let's go ahead and scale this on the x-axis so that it just goes past the ends of the hallway. S for scale, X for the x-axis, and then just drag it to about there, and do the same thing on the y-axis. S for scale, y-axis, Y for the y-axis, and then just drag it to about there. Press 1 to go on the front side view, and we need to do the same thing on the z-axis, but we'll center this to make it a little bit easier. And then S for scale, Z for the z-axis, and then just drag it so it's just a little bit bigger. Alright, and once again we don't have all ones here, so we need to press Control A and apply the scale. Alright, now let's name this one domain. Double click, D-O-M-A-N, enter. Now let's, with the domain selected, click on fluid, and then change this to domain. Of course, we need to go back to the fluid because I didn't actually set this up. Now with the fluid selected, click fluid, and then change the fluid type to fluid. Alright, and make sure this is set to volume. Now would be a good place or good time to go ahead and save your project. Go to File, Save, and I'm just going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to name this Hallway. Click into that folder and then name this tutorial. You can name it whatever you want, of course. And I don't type very well. I got sausage fingers and I can't see. I'm half blind. I'm exaggerating a little bit. Alright, now what we need to do is set up the parameters on the domain, because the domain is where we set up the vast majority of fluid settings. Let me go over some of these settings for you. The biggest one that we need to learn is the resolution setting. The higher the number here, the better quality the resolution or the water simulation will be, the more detail it will have in it. But the time it takes to bake and the memory that's required to bake grows exponentially the higher the number. Like right now at 65, that's an extremely low resolution, and it takes only just under 4 megabytes of memory. Now if I was to take this up to 100, it takes 13 megabytes worth of memory. If I take it up to 200, conventional wisdom might make you think that it would take about 26 megabytes, but no. It jumps up to 100. If I take it up to 400, now it's 800 megabytes. So it kind of grows exponentially. Now, it tops out at 1024. That's the highest you can set it. And you can see at 1024, it takes almost 13 gigabytes of memory. That's quite a bit, and it would take many hours to simulate at that speed or at that resolution. So in this, I'm going to set it at 100 initially. Excuse me. And this is just going to be for showing you what's going on and how to use this. But whenever you go to bake it yourself, you're probably going to want to set it to about 400 at least. Probably between 400 and 500. Alright. Now over here you have a preview number. I don't even mess with that. I just leave it set at 45, and I change preview to final. That way whenever I'm looking at it in the viewport over here, it's showing it at full resolution. So I just leave that alone and put the viewport display at final. Now you have down here, you have a time scale, and the time is how long is the simulation going to be. And in this case, I want the simulation to be probably 240 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and change, or pardon me, 240 frames. So I'm going to change this to 240, and I already have this set at 24 frames a second. And believe it or not, how you have this set at this time, whether it's set at 24, 30, or 60, it actually does affect the way it calculates the speed of the simulation. I didn't think it did for a long time, but I ran several tests a while back, and it actually does. But I got this set at 24. You can set it at whatever you want and just do the math to change the setting here. But I'm going to have it 10 seconds long because it's 240 frames. So I'm going to put this at 10 seconds. Now what this is really for is, suppose I have this set to 300 frames, but I still only want this fluid simulation to last 10 seconds. That means that I can, have this go up to like 13, and then this start at 3, and that means the first 3 seconds the fluid will not do anything, and then it will start, the fluid simulation will start 3 seconds into the simulation, if that makes any sense. I'm probably not explaining it very well, but I'm going to set this back at 10 for this, or 0 actually. Alright, and then you have your speed right here, and I'm just going to leave it set to 1. If you want it to go faster, you can set that to a higher number, or if you want to slow it down, you can set it to a lower number. And then right here you have fluid world. Now, on something like this, a flooded hallway, I generally will turn this up to as high as it will go, which is about 10 meters. And you have some presets over here for fluid types: honey, oil, and water. Obviously choose water, but the viscosity and base number, it's defaults to the same as water, so you really don't have to change that. Fluid boundary, normally this would come and you would need to adjust this, but because all the fluid is going to be inside the hallway and not up against the boundary of the fluid domain, this will not actually affect anything in this simulation. And then fluid particles. Now, I have no idea what tracer particles are. I looked it up on the Blender website and it didn't explain it very well, and I still don't know what they are. Now, generate particles, I know what that is, and it's basically, if I was to turn this up to 1, what it would do, it would generate splashes and kind of like a mist. But every time I try to use this, every time I try to get it to generate particles, the water seems to evaporate, and I don't know how to fix it. So I'm just going to leave this at 0. I'm probably doing something wrong, but I don't use this built-in fluid system anyway. I use Flip Fluids because Flip Fluids is orders of magnitude better. It's better in every conceivable way. Alright, now let's go ahead and set the cache directory. Now I'm going to go into the same folder that I saved the project to, which is hallway, and then right there's the new folder name, cache fluid, and then just click accept. That way it puts all my bake files and project file in the same folder. And I think we're pretty much ready at this point. So with all of that set up, if I press bake, it will go through and bake. Of course, 100 resolution is really low, which is why it's baking that quick. Now, one good thing about this fluid system is while it's baking, you can actually preview. Of course, it's already done baking with this one, but let me go ahead and click bake one more time and see. I can actually preview while it's baking. But as you can see, the resolution of that water is very, very low. Like, let me go ahead and turn the camera on and kind of, where is my camera? 7. Let me go ahead and rotate Z and look through the camera. I'm kind of looking down the hallway. Let me turn this to solid view. Now you see how low resolution that water is. So 100 is way too low. But it's giving you the idea of how to go about doing this. And of course you can always, with the fluid domain selected, you can always click smooth for smooth shading. Now if I turn up the resolution, see, like right now it's taking about 13 megabytes of memory is all, which is nothing in modern standards. Let me turn this up to 200, and you see how quickly it baked when it was set to 100. I'll turn this up to 200, and conventional wisdom is that it will take twice as long to bake, but no. Actually, it's taking almost 10 times as much memory, or really about 9 times as much memory. So it will probably take about 9 times longer. Let me go ahead and click bake. And look how much slower it's going. It's still going fast, because 200 is still really low in my opinion. Now if I click play, but see, look, it's got quite a bit more detail in it, even though it doesn't have a whole lot still. If I put this in solid view, it still doesn't look good, but it looks better than 100. I'll go ahead and stop that by pressing the escape key, and now we'll go back into wireframe so we can see through the wall. Now if I turn this up to 400, which is 400 is about the least I would recommend doing this in, but probably 400 or 500. The preview that I showed you at the beginning of this tutorial, that was at 400. So I got this set to 400, and then I'll click bake, and you'll see how much longer it takes. As you can see, it's taking 800 megabytes now. Yeah, 1%, 2%. So yeah, it's going to take quite a bit longer. It will take probably about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes at this setting with this computer. Now, it would take longer with a slower computer. My computer isn't extremely fast. It's kind of a mid-grade. It's just got a Ryzen 1600X. It's 6-core, 12-thread, and I got it overclocked a little bit, running 3.9 gigahertz. Its stock speed is 3.6. I got it running 3.9, which it can run 3.9 all day long without any issues. But anyway, that's pretty much all you need to do. Now, I will do this just so we can get a better idea of what it looks like. I'm going to add a lamp. And this is another thing. While it's simulating, you can actually add stuff to the scene that doesn't affect the physics. Non-physics stuff you can add to it. And you can also work on materials while this is simulating. So I'm going to add a lamp, and I'm going to move it to about there. Press 1 to go on the front side view, and then raise this lamp to about there, and I'll turn it up to about 2500, and I'm going to click on the domain, and I'm going to add a material to that domain. This will actually affect the color, the material of the water itself, of the fluid. I'm just going to give it a basic water type look to it. So I'm just going to choose principled, go down here to transmission and turn it up to 1, and then roughness, I'll probably turn it up to 0.05. That way it's just got a little bit of a tiny bit of roughness to it, so it's not too clear or too reflective. And that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to go ahead and press 0 to go into camera view. Now I need to turn this off because I don't have a world texture applied. I don't want everything to look pink, so that the only light we see is coming from that lamp up here. Now I'm going to press play. Alright, let it get to about right there. Now you can go ahead and let it keep baking if you want, or set up the resolution however you want, but I want to show you what this looks like. Put it on rendered, and that's pretty much it. Now it will look a whole lot better once you apply materials to everything and put a proper ceiling in up here with lights and all that. but I just wanted to show you how to set up the actual fluid domain and make the physics work. The rest of it I'll leave up to your own individual artistic ability. Anyway, if you have any questions, leave a comment below and I will try to answer it. Later, people. Thank you for watching this video. Here are 4 other videos you might like. If you liked this video, please give it a like, share it, or leave a comment. I try to respond to every comment on every video regardless how old the video is. Also, please support your favorite YouTubers by disabling ad blocker. Thanks again. Later.